Today is October, what did I say, October? I am tired. As I said, I was getting coffee, and that hasn't really helped anything yet. I think that I was thinking of my birth date, because I've been having to repeat um, my date of birth for a bunch of business things that I've been dealing with. They keep asking me for my date of birth. And anyway, today is April 5th, 2015. And I talked about James Cartwright and being forced out of my living situation over in DC, and how the government kept trying to force me to move from one place to the next and was raping me repeatedly after kidnapping every one of my babies. And some of it is not just, some of it is definitely hate crimes oriented, because the way in which all of my girls were removed from me, and how they did it and how they wanted to rub it in. They had told me prior to my ever having any of my girls that they were basically, they basically told me they were going to get, quote unquote, revenge against me. And they had some sort of idea that I think that they were jealous of me, and they really resented me for saying that I should, things like, that I should be getting some of the money that is being sent to other people for my work and my talent. So they were coming up with all kinds of excuses to get around it, I think, and to make themselves feel better and justified, and to make others feel that it was okay to steal from me and to kidnap my kids. And what they ended up telling me is that, they kept trying to entrap me in little things, like, they kept playing games, and then they wanted to, it would take such a long time actually to describe how it's hate crime. But I think, since I'm talking about rape right now, I am going to skip over that part and what is currently going on at this moment, and going to continue addressing some of the government organized crimes of rape that occurred against me. So, anyway, as I said, was being moved from one place to the next, and then got this job at the Post Pub, and then everything, matter happened with James Cartwright. And what I didn't mention is that when I was younger, when I was a girl, a preteen, I had been trafficked to this area, to the DC area, where they had me work at the Post Pub and monitored me by videotape. And when they were monitoring me by videotape, they were just watching how I waitressed, and I guess making predictions about what I did next. It was just another way for them to see which one of their psychics had a good grasp on what I thought and what I did, and if they were able to accurately predict my next moves. It's every single time that I was ever put into a mental ward, which was typically under threats of punishment, it was usually always in combination with the government wanting to take more medical records of me. For example, they'd torture me really badly to the head, and then they'd want me to go to a mental place, and then they'd make excuses about how they needed to do an MRI or a CAT scan, or have me sent out for, like, get a referral for something. And then they would just add that to their stack of documentation for their Nazi medical experiments against me. And another thing that they did, and that whenever they put me into a mental ward, well, primarily to me, it was to threaten me. It was a suppressor of my free speech. And it was always, every single time, with the threats that as long as you keep talking about this, we cannot let you go, and we will not let you go. You better keep your mouth shut. It didn't even matter that I wasn't violent, and I wasn't like crazy and disorganized, and that I could hold a job. I was functioning in society, and so on and so forth. They all basically would not allow me to tell the truth about what the government was doing to me. They wouldn't allow me to report crimes because because they didn't want me to report what they were doing. And so some of the another reason that they had me in the mental ward was they were doing research on me every single time they put me in there. So just for example, as they had videotaped me while I was at work, and allowed people to government operatives to watch me and predict my moves and my actions and that kind of thing, because they wanted to grasp on what I would do and where I would go. They also did the exact same thing in mental wards, and they had government agents in every mental ward that I ever went to, who basically were some of the government psychics, and they did the same thing. They would watch me and observe me and make predictions. The government was allowing them to use me as basically like a guinea pig, and for them to test their skills out on. So I mean, I was the only one who wasn't getting paid. I wasn't getting paid. I was getting forced into being imprisoned. Basically, it's imprisonment of person, and having my freedom of travel obstructed, just so the United States could threaten me and hold me in one location so that they could watch me and have an excuse for a bunch of government people to have access to me. And I was actually being watched and monitored by hidden cameras almost my entire life, including in my rooms and in my personal spaces and that kind of thing. So if the government can allow government operatives to watch me in my private home and that kind of thing, then you'd think, well, then why would the government really need me to be in a mental ward to do the same thing? Well, I think that it has to do with giving some of these psychics the ability to not just watch me from a remote location on a screen like now. I think that it was giving these government psychics an ability to talk to me and to make predictions based on what they felt like they wanted to talk to me about or ask me about, and interact with me and get a grasp on what I thought and did based on their own interactions of me with me. And some of the time when I was younger, when I was a kid, what they were doing is they were programming me in those mental wards too. They weren't just using these mental wards to just detain me. They were doing active programming of me, like hypnosis and electroshock. And instead of using electric head rays, they used an excuse of doing electroshock therapy while they programmed me and tortured me. So they did a lot of things in those places, and most of all, it was to, I think, suppress my speech, and was always a way to knock me down financially. And now that I'm an adult, they practiced that so many times when I was a kid, and now that I'm an adult, I'm 40 years old, and I have nothing to show for it because of this country, because of what this government has done to me. mean, a lot of people have a lot of money and a lot to show for my work, and they've profited off of it, and I haven't made anything off of it. I haven't been given what I'm owed on anything. And for all of the times, the United States government said that when I was a kid, I was working for them and that they were going to pay me. They never paid me. They never, repeatedly, they would use one person after the other to tell me that I was going to be paid. And for doing work. I mean, I really did work. And they never paid me. I never once got a paycheck from the government for anything, except I think that, like, maybe one time there was a check that supposedly went to me, but it was like short term. It was just, I can't remember, but typically I did see a bunch of checks being written, but they were never going to me. They were telling me that it was going to Katie Middleton. And I'm sure that not everything was going to Katie Middleton. I mean, why would they have me work just so that, these government people could, infuriate me while they wrote checks out, so that it could go to her? I think that sounds like a little bit of an excuse and just a way to annoy me, but it is true that I never did make any money up from anything that I did in the U.S. So the next clip, I was just talking about having to work at the Post Pub, and also I have had jobs where, I haven't just said bad things about my employers and everything, and it has to be a really bad situation, or really where I definitely know they're government people, for me to talk about it. Because otherwise, even though I write about my personal stuff online and the things other individuals have done, I don't just randomly talk about people for no reason. And my dog was running to chew everything up right now. Annette, get off the bed. Up. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is how videotaping me and monitoring me in the Post Pub and their constant surveillance of me then led to something that they did over in the same hotel room that James Cartwright took me to later when I was an adult.